Well, good morning, everyone. It's 11:16, and we want to be respectful of your time. We still have folks joining in, but we'll kick off this final session of the morning. I'm Charles Miller, Associate Vice Chancellor of Institutional Effectiveness. I'm not quite sure how I ended up in this time slot, but here I am, so you get what you pay for. But at least we'll have Dr. June to close it out on an exciting note. But this morning, I'd like to share with you a little bit about progress on some key SLCC initiatives. And those of you that know me know that it's going, I'm going to talk about some data because that's what I do. I'm going to talk, but there's a reason I'm going to talk about data this morning. And that is because we are looking at issues and tracking back to some things that that we've been dealing with, over the past year, but we don't often stop and take time to look at what we've done or what we've accomplished over this past, over the course of time. Can folks hear me? Can I get a thumbs up, Lana? Okay, great. Thank you. I've got a quote posted on my board behind me that I look at every day, and it's by W. Edwards Deming, who was a 20th century statistician, but he was really the father of data science. And he quoted once that without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So we hear this morning, we hear repeatedly how good we are, how good SLCC an institution is. Well, I want to show you some data this morning that proves it. And the other thing that I hope in sharing this data is that you take away from the fact that we talked this morning, Dr. June started us this morning talking about how we're in a sprint, and just sat through an excellent presentation by Dr. Bodwin about, we're all WebExed out, we're all stressed out, etc. What we really want to do is stop and take a little bit different perspective, and let's see, is this sprint really accomplishing something? So what I'd like to do is begin by going back to what are the key initiatives we've been working on? Well, there's been two real leading initiatives that have been driving us over the last 5 years. One is our own college strategic plan. And when we developed a strategic plan, we developed a scorecard to monitor whether or not we are actually, fulfilling what we said we wanted to do in 2015. So in our college scorecard, we were looking at monitoring enrollment, both for credit and non-credit, monitoring how well we're doing on retaining students, because it's one thing to get them in, but you also have to keep them. Monitoring on-time completion of students. Do we get them in, and do we complete them in a timely fashion? How well we're serving those that are interested in four-year transfers. Really some of our people factors, employee engagement and retention, and also financial sustainability. So that was one set of factors that was kind of internally driving us. And then related to that, we had LCTCS launched in 2015 what it called LA 2020. And it set forth 6 specific goals for us to look at, which was they wanted us to double the number of students we served, double our number of graduates, double the annual earnings of completers, and quadruple four-year transfers and business and industry partnerships, and double the foundation assets. So what I'd like to do is take us through, really in the last 5 years, how have we done in terms of meeting those objectives? Did did we make a difference? Are we making a difference as an institution? Let's start with enrollment. LA 2020 wanted us to double the number of students served. In 2015, and by the way, who are students? Students are traditional for-credit students. Students are individuals enrolled in non-credit courses, and also our adult basic education students served in this region. So in total, in 2015, we had 2015-16 academic year, we had 12,700 individuals. That's individual unduplicated head count. This past year, and in 18-19, we got close to 18,000 individuals served by SLCC. If you think about it, we tend to think of ourselves as a relatively small institution. 18,000 individuals that we touch, 17 to 18,000 individuals we touch annually and serve to help meet their educational needs. So over the last 5 years, that's a 35% increase in number of persons that we have served as an institution. On the for-credit side, the college said, okay, we have to be cognizant of for-credit instruction. So we're going to monitor that closely. That goes back to 10 years, 15 years ago. We used to get paid on every head that walked in the door. So it's no longer that way, but it's still something that we want to monitor, and something that we want to make sure we're adequately serving the for-credit side. You can see we started in 2015 with about 9,000 for-credit students that academic year, and we ended up this past year with about 9,500 for-credit students. I'll explain in a minute why this is kind of an anomaly. We didn't increase the number of heads. We really haven't decreased at all in the amount of credit hours taken. So we're serving relatively the same number of students on the for-credit side, but we continue to increase the number of credit hours of instruction that's provided. So we didn't see a huge change in for-credit students served, but again, remember that we're talking about in terms of our service to the region. We also have to take into account our non-credit student head count, and in our scorecard, we started out with 1,275 students in 2015-16. You could see that in 18-19, we hit right at 4,000 students served just on the non-credit side. So those are two metrics that show, really, again, we are an institution as a whole, and if we're maintaining on one side, then this helps supplement. So, but again, it shows the effort on the corporate college side to really pick up and offer more opportunities for individuals to meet their educational needs. Now, once you have students in the door, that's great, but you have to retain them. So we want to monitor retention rate, and obviously a lot goes into the retention of our students. But in 2015, the executive team set their 2020 goal on retention at 84%. It was at 68%. And we kind of look at retention a little bit differently as an institution. We do have to provide federal reports, et cetera, and they typically look at first time in the door students and how many of those you retain till the spring or the following fall. And we opened that definition up a little bit for our college as an institution. We chose to look at degree-seeking students that beginning at SLCC. So it could either be a first-time student or as a transfer student that they're coming here with the intention of earning a degree. How many of those are we retaining to the next semester? And you see, we've had a 9.2 percentage point increase over the past 5 years in retaining those. And if that doesn't sound like much, that's really a huge 2%, averaging 2% a year addition is most institutions would kill to have that kind of average result. So we're obviously getting better at retaining the students that we attract. And I think my screen is frozen. If you could bear with me a second, I'm apparently encountering the same thing that Dr. June encountered this morning.
The information that Dr. Miller is presenting is excellent because it is a segment of the Louisiana Community and Technical College System strategic plan that took us through 2020. They officially did a very robust and outstanding presentation with the Board of Supervisors and other constituents, with Board of Regents and other external stakeholders within the state of Louisiana to officially close the loop on the Louisiana 2020. This will lead us into a conversation tying back to my presentation about the strategic plan through 2025. And it's going to take on a different tenor, more specifically with metrics. As Dr. Miller is outlining in the LA 2020, you saw buzzwords that translate into metrics like quadruple and double and triple. And obviously in the strategic planning process, it's very difficult to measure outcomes when you are using vernaculars like triple and double and quadruple, as opposed to standardized metrics that could be comparative to either state or national trend types of data to really give us a better indicator of how we stack and how we benchmark against other institutions that are equivalent in size to us. And so I'm excited about the data that Dr. Miller is presenting to close out LA 2020. And it is certainly, not indicative of significant achievements, but as we move into the strategic planning process for LA 2025 and SLCC strategic planning through 2025, the metrics and the goals and objectives will be a lot more direct, a lot more parallel with other institutions and systems across the country, and obviously will give us a lot more flexibility in terms of benchmarking strategic initiatives that we deem are appropriate in driving and propelling the institution forward. Dr. Miller, were you able to come back on? So no one heard me, right? Were you guys able to hear me?
Yes, Dr. June, we can hear you. And it looks like Dr. Miller is not yet back on.
Okay.
If you would like to.
He probably had to reboot. There's so many of us on the system, and I think the bandwidth is an issue. And when you have multiple applications open, it also interferes with the share file, and you're trying to share a file and present at the same time. It's just one of the nuances with the technological presentations. So bear with him for a second. I have to agree with Debbie Tapchuri. It is extremely exciting to see people's faces. I cannot wait. I don't know how you guys feel about the vaccine. I feel positive about the vaccine. I'm not going to go into a conversation with the vaccine, but I am looking very much forward to some sense of the past normalcy so that we can congregate on the campuses. I really miss just being able to see people face to face. I appreciate the technology. I appreciate the WebEx, but I would really, really like to see people face to face on campus. It's driving me crazy.
I agree, Dr. June. And it looks like Dr. Miller has rejoined us. And I think we can see your screen, Dr. Miller. So if you'd want to continue, we're all ears. Dr. June, it looks like Dr. Miller is continuing to have a few issues, but while we can see his screen, if you want to talk about the LA 2020 goal of graduates and how we increase that, I think that would be great.
Okay, do you have me now?
We got you, Dr.
Okay.
Miller.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So we talked about getting students in. We talked about retaining students. We also, obviously, the next big issue is graduates. And the way LA 2020 defines graduates is what we assume to be our typical graduates that will walk across the stage, earning a credential on the for credit side. But LA 2020 also takes into account individuals that earn industry-based credentials on the non-credit side. So you can see we've had a 53% over the last 5 years, 53% in the number of individuals. Again, this is not credentials awarded. This is individuals that actually earned a for credit credential or an industry-based credential. 53% increase in the number of individuals that have earned those credentials in the last 5 years. Okay. One of the things we talked about, we were concerned with on the college scorecard side is, are we finishing folks on time? So we looked at one of the factors that's being monitored is on-time completion of degrees. When in 2015, when we said, okay, we want to see how well people are getting through, are they getting through in a timely fashion? We went to look at the data of the graduates in 2015-16 and the ones that came in as a new student. And of those that earned a transfer degree, which is a Associate of Science or a Louisiana transfer degree or Associate of General Studies, we had 1% of those students that got through that degree program in 2 years. So that is really, that was kind of an eye-opener for the executive team. They wanted to increase that to at least 21%, so at least 1 in 5 students getting through within 1 year, within 2 years. We've actually got that up to 5% now, but that's on transfer degrees. So obviously still work to be done there. It gets a little more interesting when you look at the technical side. In 2015-16, only 1% of those students were getting their AAS degrees in 2 years. That's gone to 18.5, about 15-16% now on average. So we're doing quite a bit better for our students pursuing an AAS degree to get done within their 2-year time frame. The huge difference has come in those degrees that are less than associate degrees we offer on the 4-credit side. In 2015-16, there were 5% of those students getting done with their TD or their CTS in the allocated amount of time according to their degree plan. Now it's 58.6% of the students on the technical side are getting done with their TD or CTS within the time we expect them to do. So that in and of itself has made a huge difference in terms of students not only coming in, but progressing and getting out and getting into the workforce in a timely fashion. One of the other things we're concerned about is how are we doing in terms of number of students we're transferring to 4-year institutions. 22% increase over the last 5 years. We may begin looking at this in a little bit different fashion, but and this is dependent. If you think back, we showed how the number of 4-credit students kind of stagnates. So this is kind of dependent on how many students we have coming in to how many are available to transfer to a 4-year. But again, we've been continue to focus on that. One of the other key things that we were looking at in 2015, and you'll see this is not a LCTCS metric. This is an internal metric, the SLCC. We had some people issues back in those days. Those of you that were here, we had people were not happy, and we knew that we had to change. We had to change the environment. So one of the things we began doing was looking at employee engagement, which is a means of assessing how people thought about the institution in general and their workplace in general. Dr. Pilcher, Janet Pilcher, who's on with us this morning from Studer Education, said, confided in us that we were pretty well, in 2015-16, we were pretty much at the bottom of the barrel on most of the ratings in terms of employee engagement compared to other institutions that they had done the survey with. We've had, over the last 5 years, a 30% increase in our employee engagement rating. It's a different environment than we had a year ago. We actually have 2021 results. I didn't report it here, but even with COVID, we were still at 4.17 for our last administration. So we still maintain that high, relatively high employee engagement rating, and we've gone from kind of the bottom of the barrel to, toward the top end on that. We also had a metric concerning employee retention. In 2015, we had 80.6% of our employees return. So what we do is look at people that are here November 1, 2014, that were still here November 1, 2015. We had 80% of those students. Executives, 80% of those employees. Executives said, that's a pretty good, that's a pretty good standard. We want to try and maintain that. We don't want to get below that. The last metric we did was the fall 18 employees, those that returned to fall 19. We're not like 87% of our regular employees retained at the institution. Then the other thing, some of these are, these are internal measures. So we need to get a baseline. Are we really doing? Are we really doing that well? So what we do, we also, in the spring, we do the Great Colleges survey. And this kind of gives me a sense of, are we norming up against the standard for others? And you can see how how much a difference our responses in the Great Colleges Survey has changed over the past 5 years. So that tells me, what you're telling us on employee engagement is being reflected in that nationally normed survey as well. Couple of final items. One on LA 2020 is we need to look at partnerships because that's key to what we do here. And by a partner, they're talking about an outside entity that actually has to have multiple criteria for qualifying as a designation as a partner. It's things like they have to contribute to the institution, they have to donate, they have to serve on committees, they have to procure training. So it's not just, an average passerby, so to speak. We in 2015-16, we've gone from fewer than 50 partners. Last year, we have 106 documented partners per LA 2020, which is a 135% increase. And save the best for last. This is foundation assets. They are. That was one. It was on both our SLCC scorecard and LA 2020 scorecard. You could see at the end of our June 30th, 2015, we had less than $1 million in foundation assets. This past year, we're over 5.2 million, 475% increase. This is an example of, again, the financial attention that's been paid at SLCC. So that was a huge win for us, particularly in the scorecard and in the LA 2020. So what does that all mean? Well, something to keep in mind as we're moving forward with our sprint is what's measured is what matters, and that we're successful and we exhibit everyday excellence because we're deliberate in that. So all this good stuff doesn't happen by chance. It happens as a result of the hard work done by every one of you here. And the other thing that we've seen over time is that it's really we have to be first and foremost thinking about ourselves, our peers. If we are a leader, the people that are reporting to us, but it's people first, because none of this happens without us focusing on ourselves as individuals and as a collective group to meet our objectives. And the final thing that I'd like to point out, again, we're going 90-0 all the time. We're making great progress, but it's a continuous journey. We never, one day we may get there. It won't be in my lifetime, but maybe it'll be in some of y'all's. But it is, even though it's like we can keep doing it, but we got to keep doing it. That's why Dr. June, this morning indicated to us that we're in a sprint. So from there, I'd like to turn it back over to Dr. June to talk a minute about what's next and then close us out for this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Miller, and great presentation. I'm going to keep my video off because when I turn it on, it begins to spin and I have to reboot and all that good jazz. But great job. But before I move into closing remarks on this particular presentation, Deborah Chapchuri had a inquiry, and I think I know the answer to it, but I want to be very clear. She asked, "Is this transfer a transfer after degree?"
It is transfer at any point.
Okay, and I didn't see any other questions. Okay, so as Dr. Miller indicated in this particular presentation, these were goals and metrics that were tied to the SLCC scorecard, but more specifically, they were developed internally to mesh well with the LA 2020 plan. Now, there were a lot of questions and concerns about, the development of LA 2020 and, how it was derived and, who had input in terms of identifying, what was relevant and what wasn't and so forth and so on. But nonetheless, I applaud SLCC and the Miller here in the presentation earlier. What I'm excited about is the fact that the LCTCS and Board of Supervisors are taking a different twist on the LA 2025. It will be more intentional in nature with respect to, for example, a lot of the items on our scorecard. You could probably say about 80% of those fell into what I refer to as the student success category. But we didn't have any goals or objectives that tied to, for example, let's just say from a system-wide perspective that tied to people, sustainability, community engagement. And I think what you're gonna see in this next round of LA 2025 strategic plan is more direct connectivity and more generality that will give us flexibility to also add value to goals and objectives that would allow us to measure ourselves in terms of how well we are making an impact here at SOC relative to our community, relative to our operational mechanics, our academic programs, serving students, the whole gamut. You're going to see a lot more coming down the pipeline. The other thing too is that we will still be able to be in control of linking a lot of the work that has already been done from a strategic enrollment management perspective. We have a retention and completion plan that has been finalized and that will be presented to the executive team at the next executive team meeting scheduled for later this month. And what you're going to see is a lot of connectivity to very key strategies and initiatives that we have to hold ourselves accountable for in order to be sure that we are doing the great work that we are supposed to be doing. And I'm excited about that because many of you who are on this presentation call will be part of the work moving forward to help cultivate it, but also to scrutinize it to make sure that we are doing the best possible